With the release of a new Dark Phoenix trailer, I thought this was a great time to make a video on why this film could be the most pointless X-Men film made today, and is squandering the potential of a Dark Phoenix story truly has. Firstly, what is the Dark Phoenix saga, and why is Fox doing it wrong again? Okay, so the Dark Phoenix saga was a series of comics released in 1980, and tells the story of Jean Grey, a long-time member of X-Men, when she goes to space and is taken over by the entity known as the Phoenix. The Phoenix enhances Jean's powers and unlocks her true potential as a telepath. Essentially, the Phoenix is looking for more and more power and corrupts Jean, with the Phoenix only seeing Jean as a mere vessel. Crazy stuff ensues. Jean kills her loved ones, the Kree and Skrulls argue what is to be done with Jean, Jean then dies, spoiler alert, and by the end we're left with a very somber tone and have to pick up the pieces of an almighty shitstorm Jean and the Phoenix has created. The comic ends with a very emotional goodbye from Jean to her lover Cyclops, and we the reader truly feel the weight of this, as we have had many stories building their relationship and Jean's relationship within the team. We understand the deep emotional scar Jean's death will leave on every member of the X-Men, and especially Cyclops. This is thanks to years of building up to this storyline and understanding the character of Jean and her place within the X-Men. The main dynamic within the Dark Phoenix saga comic is between Jean and Cyclops, two lovers who now have to make the decision that it is better for Jean to die. She is far too much of a threat to the galaxy. It's a pretty emotional story point. Here are two characters we've seen grow together. The reader understands that they love one another and now they'll have to be apart due to something out of their control. With the Dark Phoenix film, we have characters that have not been built up or introduced to us in any way. There are 3 characters in the Dark Phoenix film who have been developed in some way over the course of these films. These characters are Beast, Magneto, and Professor Xavier. But these characters are not the central focus of the Dark Phoenix. Whilst Magneto and Professor X's stories don't need to go anywhere, as there is nothing new to tell with these characters, and their arcs are already completed. The central focus of this film is the downfall of a beloved character who is yet to be properly introduced into the series. The problem with the Dark Phoenix film being released by Fox this June is I don't know who the hell Jean is. The trailers are trying to paint some emotional connection I should have with that character when I don't know who she is at all. Sophie Turner's Jean Grey was introduced in the previous X-Men film Apocalypse, and she's a fairly stagnant character throughout. She tells Cyclops people fear her, but we haven't seen her do anything which tells the audience she is a character to be feared. We get no sense of the type of woman she is. I mean, she could be a total bitch, I don't know. The film hasn't set up in any way her personality traits. The whole thing feels forced. Essentially, the filmmakers said, well, Jean Grey, yeah, she becomes the Dark Phoenix. Well, how does she get to that point? I don't know. Just have her at that point. You don't need a backstory or build her up in any way, even though we are creating a film about a downfall of a hero. The same goes to Cyclops. He is introduced in X-Men Apocalypse as a kind of cocky kid whose mutation develops and he has to integrate into a completely new group, where he is now the outcast. It's an okay introduction to the character, but he does not develop at all in Apocalypse. He doesn't become the leader of the X-Men like he does in the comics, nor does he really learn anything about himself or develop in any meaningful way. The relationship he has with Jean Grey is very forced, and it seems the writers just smashed these two together without thinking about them having any chemistry. In my opinion, it's a bizarre decision to make a sequel to a film focused on 2 characters who were merely supporting characters in the previous film, and now have them the central focus. The main problem I can see with X-Men Dark Phoenix is there are no relationships built between these characters. The key aspect of the Dark Phoenix saga comic was the X-Men had lost their long-standing team member. Charles had lost someone who had been raising since she was a child, someone he had nurtured and was helping to control her power, and ultimately failed her as a mentor. Cyclops was losing the love of his life, and the rest of the team was losing their friend and their fellow mutant. With this version of Jean, I don't understand her struggles. These were hinted at in X-Men Apocalypse, but were not truly explored. I understand that X-Men Dark Phoenix can explore these aspects further, but in a story that was written as a saga, I feel a lot of elements are missing. For Jean Grey's downfall, she needs to first be built up as a character, which Fox have failed to do. It seems all we're going to see is the downfall of Jean Grey. The audience needs to see this character be built up, her struggles to be shown, her story of how she became a hero, how she integrated within the team, and how she fell in love. This could be easily achieved over, say, the course of 2 films that actually focused on Jean within the team, instead of what the filmmakers appear to have done, and that's to skip all character development and just jump straight to her downfall. Jean in these trailers is clearly shown to be as a tragic hero, when this doesn't really work, as we the audience have barely seen her be a hero. A general audience member would only really see her predominantly as a villain, because that's basically the character's starting point in this film. But we are seeing characters look sad, Cyclops seem like he has lost his love, and all the characters look very somber about the loss of their friend, when from the evidence I've seen, they barely know this girl. She wasn't in Days of Future Past, and she wasn't in First Class to build up some sort of relationship with Professor X, Magneto, so these reactions are very empty and very meaningless to the audience. For all I know, she just rocked up one day at the X Mansion and f***ed it up. Poor old Professor X, you'd think he'd be happy to get rid of this woman, who's only been a pain in his arse the whole time. The point is, X-Men Dark Phoenix is trying to tell a story which simply can't be told over one film. It's a saga defined as a long story of heroic achievement. This story simply doesn't work over a course of a film. If we look at a similar saga in the original Star Wars trilogy, it's a story of redemption of Darth Vader. This didn't happen over one film, it happened over 3. We learn about Vader, we understand he is a villain, but a tragic character. He is filled with doubt and conflict over the choices he has made. And we see over the course of a trilogy his ultimate redemption. A story like that doesn't work over one film. Could you imagine if at the end of New Hope, Darth Vader decided to become good, blow up the Death Star, and fly off with Luke Skywalker? It just doesn't work. It's a shame Fox appeared to be butchering the Dark Phoenix saga once again, and seem to not want to try and do this iconic storyline justice, as it could make a fantastic trilogy, or even a duo of films. I would love for Fox to focus on the actual X-Men team instead of consistent stories surrounding Professor X, Magneto and Wolverine. Fox have a plethora of characters at their disposal, which they appear to just ignore and not explore. With the Fox-Disney merger finally completed at the recording of this video, it does worry me that the MCU may not do a Dark Phoenix saga story, as this epic would have already been told twice in the space of 15 years, and audiences will have become tired at seeing the same story attempted. I do feel Marvel could do an excellent job with this story, especially with having such a vast array of characters at their disposal, but I think it's very unlikely that with X-Men integrating into the Marvel universe, they will be jumping straight onto a Dark Phoenix story, and we may have to wait quite a while for this film. But who knows, I hope Fox prove me entirely wrong and this film is fantastic. I think modern superhero films owe a lot to the early X-Men films. They are truly, might be one of the first superhero franchises ever made, and to be successful, I am looking forward to seeing what Fox have created with the Dark Phoenix, but I just can't see how it will work. But hopefully, like I said, they prove me wrong, but I'm always 100% right, and I've never got anything wrong regarding my opinions on superhero films. But that's the way of the world. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.